of that black eye, the real black eye that I had 2 years ago. It goes like this. So on May 21st, May 21st, 2024, I had a live stream that was a abject disaster. Remind me, Beet Soup, to talk about this ghostly pale thing. I am pale, generally speaking, so that's almost true. But I'll address it because I have to address it for the sake of other people than me. I couldn't ask for a much better mugshot than that. It reminds me of Raising Arizona. Nick Cage cracks me up. Every time I look at it, I'm like, God, that is kind of funny though, you know? All right. So, on May 21st of 2024, I had a really bad live stream. During the stream, drank around, I think I counted 20 shots of whiskey. And that was in like the first hour and a half. 20 shots of whiskey. And the other thing, I was already on Molly that night. I was on a lot of Molly. I think by that point in the night, I was at 180 milligrams of Molly, which is 3 women's doses of Molly. How about that? So I was on, but about somewhere, just around 2 doses for someone my size, but a decent amount of Molly. I was in a very bad mood because I had just lost actually in my appeal against the decision to just like the judge not dismissing the Montegraph suit. That pissed me off. I was really, really angry. So I was having a bad day and I should not have streamed that day. I should not have streamed that day at all. Okay. But I did because I was mad and I was like, I'm going to go talk to my peoples. Right. But, I had 3 drinks already and then I was 20 and then I had 20 drinks on the show. I was on a lot of Molly. Like I said, I think I was at 180 milligrams of Molly. And then, both before the show and during the show, I did cocaine. So, this is the source of why I was arrested or why they justified the warrant to search my house. All right. So this all happened. There's nothing I can do about it now. At one point during that live stream, I turned the camera off, I think to talk to someone or something. And I came back on, and you have to understand, I was blackout drunk at this point, and I really don't remember most of this. All right. And some of this I've kind of put together. I came back and there was something on my nose. The cops said they believed it was cocaine. I don't, for several reasons. I was doing cocaine, but that is not the break that I took to go do cocaine. It was a different break, and I typically did not keep it in my office because I didn't want to be tempted to do cocaine during a show, like on camera. What if you turn your camera off or whatever, but you forget to turn your mic off or something, right? And you're like, you don't want to do that. So I typically did not keep cocaine in my office. I have no idea what was on my nose. I don't know. It could have been cocaine. I still don't think it was, just because I didn't keep it in my office. But that being said, it could have been. I could have. I don't remember that night very well, so I'm willing to accept it. This doesn't really matter, but anyway, so they used that. So that happened. The stream got really, really insane by the end of it. I was, like I was barely staying awake. I was on the verge of passing out the entire time, etc. This is all just setting up why I had a black eye. After the show, so that show ended. That show ended, and as one does, I went upstairs. Like the conservative thought says, you might have made an exception. I might have. Funny thing, I don't know why it's funny, but it was funny. To get ready for some of the stuff with the cases, I had to review the body cam footage. There's like 9 videos, and they're all like an hour to 2 hours each or whatever. And so I got to watch all the different searches that they did and everything. And one of them is when they searched my office. Okay, so Gina says, Nick, you were gone for 45 minutes. Yes, that is when I did cocaine. I went upstairs and did it. If I'm not mistaken, there were 2 people there, by the way, who I'm pretty sure would have checked my nose to make sure before I went back down to my show. But if I'm not mistaken, the break where I came back with something on my nose was not the 45-minute break. It was after that. It was subsequent to the 45-minute break. And it was very short, less than a minute, I thought. But I don't know. I haven't gone back and looked at this. But anyway, that stream ended. That disaster was over. As one does, I went upstairs to my bathroom, and there were 2 people who were with me, and I said, I'm not ready to go to bed yet, because I was thinking logically at the time. And I said, I want I'm going to do some coke. I'm going to do some coke. And do either of you want any? Lady Racket said, no, I don't want any. The other person there said, yeah, I would have some. And I'm like, well, I will go ahead and prepare a line of coke for each of us. How delightful. Sounds like a blast. So, I pour 2 relatively fat lines of powder onto my bathroom counter and got everything lined up. And then I ripped that line. I was in the bathroom alone at the time. I ripped that line, and everything was cool. Everything was cool. And then I like woke up kind of like, I was crashing into like a wall, and then I was on the floor, and I woke up and I was like, what the hell? And, the person who was not in there to do their line of cocaine asked me, she says, what the fuck happened? Like, I don't know. I must have tripped on like a dog toy. And I hit my face on the bathroom counter. Like this. I landed like, sorry, it's doing it mirrored. Ah! Damn it. No. Yeah, like this. I hit like here. And on the bathroom counter, right on the edge of it. When I fell. I didn't really know this, but I did. And I was like, that's just weird. I figured I tripped on a dog toy. And so she's like, okay. And I'm like, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. I just kind of stumbled. And I didn't even really know that I'd fallen. I didn't know that I hit my face like directly. It didn't hurt. So the other person, she does the line that I poured for her. And she says, "Ow, what the fuck? Ah, this burns. What did you do?" And I remember, I'm like really drunk still at the time. I go, "Oh shit. I grabbed the wrong bag." And I realized I had not poured out lines of cocaine. I had poured out 2 lines of ketamine. And I said, "We gotta go. We gotta get to a place to lay down, right?" And so like if you snort ketamine, it hits you really fast. It could be like a minute, it could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes or so. But I mean, it hits really, really fast. And so the one thing about ketamine though is that the overdose on ketamine is like it's a catastrophically high amount. The thing that makes ketamine relatively dangerous is people will do it. It's a paralytic, and they'll do it like in a bathtub or a hot tub or a pool, and they drown. That's a big problem. But ketamine is a paralytic that doesn't paralyze your respiratory system. That's why it's such a popular field anesthetic and field paralytic that will allow combat medics use ketamine, because you give someone a pretty heavy dose of ketamine, you can cut off an arm even, and they don't really know. So when I'm saying like they were fat lines of coke, they were probably, 150 milligrams of cocaine. Ketamine's a little bit of a different crystalline structure, so it sits differently. These are probably like 300 milligrams of ketamine. Okay. Overdose on ketamine is like 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams is when it starts to maybe get into overdose territory. So I know it sounds weird or whatever, but this is, it's actually, this is, I hate saying stuff like this. It's actually a safer amount of that drug than the same amount of cocaine, if that makes sense. So, but it's a paralytic. So your body's not going to work pretty quick. So I was like, we got to get to a place to lay down. We didn't make it. We did not make it. Almost did. And then both just collapsed on the floor. I remember Lady Rackets laughing at me, calling me an idiot. And I said, "I'll see you soon." And then, then my vision went down into the carpet, and it was, then I had a cool hallucination, and you wake up in like an hour. And yeah, so that's that. I'm not trying to glorify anything. But that's how I got the black eye for my mugshot. So that was on the night of the 21st, morning of the 22nd. The 22nd was a pretty cool day. It was a blast. Laughing about the ketamine thing. I had no idea that the stream was as catastrophic as it was. So I'm like, "Hey, this is great." And then I got people messaging me like, "Bro, what was going on in that stream?" I'm like, "Nothing. I just got drunk. Like, I get drunk all the time. Who cares?" Oh my God. Then they're like, "No, dude, you need to go watch it." And like, I started skimming through it. I'm like, "Well, this is bad." So I took it down, but the rest of the day was awesome. And then the next morning was when we were raided by the cops, and they battering rammed the door in and everything. That was a pretty bad thing. But yeah, the black eye that I had was because I accidentally poured out ketamine instead of Coke, and it hit me, and like I fell and hit my face. This is what happened. Oh, yeah, incidentally, so the problem is the bags weren't labeled. The bags weren't labeled. And ketamine and cocaine, like if you look really closely at them, they look very different. But at a glance, they're both, white powders. So incidentally, we labeled the cocaine bags with C's, and the ketamine bag had KKK on it, because one, racism is always funny, and two, wanted to be very clear that this was not a bag of cocaine. So that's why I had a black eye 2 years ago when I was arrested. And okay, so to address